Okay. So welcome to this episode of Heart Matter with Tina Hensey. I'm Tina Hensey, an Akashic Records reader and medium, and I'm with my one of my favorite people today, Laura Haug. Do I say it?
How?
Haug. Okay. And I just really wanted to have you on here because I just think the world of you, and you're just one of the things I really love is that you're so authentic and genuine, and it's just something that I always thrive to be. And so I really want to share you with the world and get to know you. So, um, how did you get
Can I
into
say thank you?
You're welcome. Yeah, you're welcome. You're so sweet. I know we're like so giddy. I feel like that when I'm like, oh, I'm so excited to be with you. Um, you're welcome. And I just wanted to ask you a few questions. I want to know, how did you get into this spiritual world? Or, I feel like you are so grounded. I don't I believe I met you in Burbank a
The
lot
crystal shine.
so many years. Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, the
Yeah.
crystal Pine.
Uh-huh.
So many years ago, and used to do Reiki for me, and I just yeah. So how did you get into when did this start for you? This opening up of your intuition and healing and stuff like that.
Oh, that's a great question. I feel like I've always been intuitive, but didn't know the word, didn't know what that meant. I felt like I was always, even when I was younger, I would kind of pick up on things, or maybe I'd have like a little foresight on something. I didn't really talk to anyone about it. I would maybe pick up on energy or spirits in the house or something and just think that I'm crazy and but so it was kind of collecting, and then I had followed the path, right? I had followed the path that society says, go to school, get a good job, find someone, like get married, all of that, but like it started to not work for me. And so I got into entertainment. So I was a project manager in entertainment for over 15 years. And then it was at one of the jobs there that I started to get really run down and burnt out and was like, what am I doing? I started to get into yoga. Um, and then after doing yoga for maybe a year or so, I went to a yoga retreat and met some cool people, and something opened up, and I realized I wanted to work more closely with a mentor. I was like, I really need some support because like I'm just feeling foggy. I'm feeling numb. I don't know what's going on. And so I did some sessions, started to learn about visualization and what you're wanting to, call into your life and tap into emotions. But when you're numb, it's hard to really call things in. So there's a process of having to unravel that. And then I don't know, it was years after that that I went to another yoga retreat and then did another private session with a teacher. And she looked at me on my mat and she said, you have a really beautiful connection with your yoga mat. Have you thought about becoming a yoga teacher or doing a yoga teacher training? And I was like, yeah, I have. I think that would be good for me. And it just timed out perfectly with being kind of unhappy with my work and burnt out and wanting to do something for me. And so I took the training actually just to try to give myself tools to help better manage the entertainment industry.
Got
And
it.
by the end of that training, I was like, nope, that's not what I'm supposed to do anymore. Like, I want to go teach yoga. And then it was then it was just like, oh my gosh, the dominoes were falling. It was like I took a 500-hour yoga teacher training course, a 200-hour, and then the 300-hour right after that. And then I got into Reiki. And so then I went through Reiki 1, 2, becoming a Reiki Master. And then I was like, wait a minute, no, I think it's life coaching that I want to be doing, because that could be the umbrella of using all of these tools.
Yeah.
Because I like to talk to people, because that's when stuff's really happening. And then I can be like, use this tool. So I did multiple different life training or life coaching certifications. And so it's just kind of evolved into then like kind of teaching myself how to use oracle cards and tarot cards, and realizing that what I have, which I always didn't understand, was I just had like a knowing. Like I don't necessarily work with spirit guides. Like they're there, but I'm not talking to them. I'm just like getting instant kind of insights. Sorry, you might hear
That's a
baby.
perfect yeah, I love that so much. I talk about that a lot with my friends and, even when I teach classes, what about the clairs and, claircognizance, that's a knowing, right? That can be very difficult for people because it's not a clear sign of like, oh, I'm getting a vision or I'm getting a sound or but you're just trusting. And that's what I find so fascinating. It's like you have really stepped into just knowing and trusting that it comes in as a knowing, right? And knowing that it's not you, right? It's coming from somewhere, we don't know where, and coming out your mouth. Like,
My heart coming out my mouth. I don't always understand it, and it's taken years to trust it. That has probably been my biggest work up to this point is in all of those moments where everyone else is telling me, no, you're wrong. And deep down knowing, actually, I'm right. Like, and it's not about right and wrong, but it's about, I think the different layers of energy that people pick up on.
yes.
And so they're also right. And I was picking up on a much deeper, I don't even want to say much deeper because it's, again, it's not like a competition. It's not about that. It was just a different subtle layer of energy, of thread of energy that I pick up on that is just what I have honed in on trusting. It's an emotional component that often I think people get stuck around. That's probably because I had so many numb feelings for a long time, not understanding it, and then having to unravel, what am I feeling? How do I communicate this? What is this? Like, it's been so much inner self reflection work that then I get to use with clients and tap into that because I can feel what they're feeling on that in that
Yes.
space.
Right, and it's, like, familiar to you too, so you're like, "Oh my gosh, this is exactly I can pinpoint that because I'm very familiar with that," and that's what I've experienced when having conversations with you, and it's like, we get muddled up when we're all by ourselves, and that's why people have therapists and life coaches and stuff like that, so they're able to, like, open up that part of you that already exists, and I think that's where you go, and it's like they're gonna see it or they're not, and that's okay. That's okay, it's just a seed, right? It's just a seed, and so beautiful, and, it's just the way that you present yourself is so just, "Look, this is how it is, like, this is real shit," you know? Like, "Here we go, like, you called me, let's do this together, like, we got this," and I love that. So, now you have recently become a mother,
Yeah.
and I just wanted to ask you, I'm very curious because there's not a lot of um, intuitive friends that I have that are mothers, and I wanted to ask you, how has that played a role in your intuition or your journey thus far? Has it set back or has it, opened it up or, expanded? I don't know.
Oh, I love this question. Because I don't know if I've actually got to answer it yet. Um, he is like, I wasn't sure if I was ever going to have kids. I just wasn't sure if I was going to meet someone, if that was part of what I wanted. I was very kind of like, there's some things about that that I know are really challenging, and I don't know if I'm capable of it. And sorry, you're hearing him in the background right now. um, and he having him at this point in my life, after learning everything that I've learned about energy, about chakras, about trauma, about emotional connection, about secure attachments, about attachment styles, all of that has like culminated into this is why I'm a mom. This is why I'm showing up right now at this time for this child because this is what he needs of me. Because when we look at his Vedic chart, he is here to like I know he chose me to help regulate his nervous system, to show him how to do that, how to emotionally connect with him. And it's been really fascinating to be able to attune to him in a way that um, maybe I had wished
Yeah,
someone could have attuned to me. And that's not saying anything negative about
sure. Yeah.
like family or anything like that. It's not, it's just understanding that I'm such a highly sensitive soul that I have two brothers and two sisters. There were five of us. Like I was number four. It's going to be hard to like drop in. I have amazing parents. They gave me a wonderful foundation. And it's like I almost chose them to like meet me in certain ways. And then the ways that like weren't fully dialed in a way that like I maybe would have liked. That's all of my work that I get to do now. And then hearing like when we get triggered by our kids is typically where maybe there were some wounds that happened for ourselves. It's so fascinating to me to see that because I get to show up for my son in ways when I get triggered and realizing I might be triggered from a multiple of reasons. It doesn't even matter. And I get to show up for myself in that way too. And when I'm giving to him, I'm giving to myself.
Yeah.
And it's so fascinating to me. Like he's just such a, he's by far my greatest teacher already, as I think children, all children are for us.
Yes.
And the way that like my brain works is like I'm always looking for like messages in the subtle energy of things. And so we'll have these moments, right, where they're little and they're trying things and they want the thing that you don't want them to have, right? And so it's like repetitive, like Samuel, okay, try to redirect. Samuel, don't, no, we don't want to play with that cord. Let's not go towards that. And then I just had this like moment one day where I was like, oh, is this what like spirit's like with me? Like, Laura, why do you keep going after the thing that like I don't want you to have just yet? You don't fully understand it just yet. Can you come back and focus on what's in front of you? Can you focus on what, and it was like freeing for me where it just gave me a different perspective of like, oh, I can understand his frustration because I feel that frustration when I'm like, I want that thing over there and I don't have that yet. And why don't I? And
Yeah.
spirit's just like the loving parent that sees the much bigger picture and is like, not yet.
Yeah.
Like you'll understand how power works at some point, but like at this moment, I need to keep you safe. I need to keep you protected. Um, and so I don't know. I just love those moments. I love those moments when he's sitting at the table and he has what he wants in front of him, but he points across the table and it's the exact same thing. And it's like, how many times do we do that? Or we're like, I want the thing over there, but it's literally right in front of you.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I'm
I have
like,
no idea what you're talking about. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, really, it's like, yeah, it's like human nature. Like,
it's
okay.
just I feel like he just simplifies things. And it's always like oh, right. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
Thanks for reflecting that back at me. And I feel like it softened me. And I actually really love being, and it can get overwhelming because you can take in a lot of information and you can hear a lot of people and everyone seems to have an input on how you should be raising your child. And for someone who's sensitive and for someone who is like really likes to please people, it's really coming back and going, who's the person I really need to please? It's myself and my son and my partner. Like we have to be on the same page here. And then I just, if I upset someone by not taking their advice, well, that's okay. They get to have their experience, they get to have their feelings, and I get to have mine. And it doesn't make any of us wrong or bad. It's just here's how we start to have healthy boundaries, which I think is probably maybe one of the biggest things that I've noticed with people who are intuitive and sensitive and empathic is like it's the boundaries.
The boundaries, girl. The boundaries. They're
Boundaries.
so, oh, they're like so necessary and so uncomfortable, right? At the same time. And I feel like you said it. It's like the boundaries are also, it's to say like, hey, you're not wrong. I'm not wrong. This is my boundary. And now you get to have your own experience. And I love that because it takes like the pressure off, doesn't it? Like of
Yeah.
having to be or and God, I'm a big recovering people pleaser too. Like it's a tough road, you know. Um, but really going back to that inner knowing, even when you're so exhausted, right? Like I felt like when I was have my kids, they were 20 months apart, and I was like pretty much doing it by myself. My husband was gone a lot, and I was just like, I found myself really just like, I just don't care about the house. I don't care. I just need to like, and it's like going back to the center, like, you know what? What do they need? What's the basic need that they need? They need love. That's it. That I need the same thing. So let's just like sit here for a while and just love each other. And I can use that with adults too, you know. Why do we have to be places all the time that says like we have to like especially in LA, right? Like hustle and bustle. And it's like, whew, just the energy gets a little. Now, so I just wanted to point out, I feel like, I admire you so much for like, you know what it's like to live in a big city, a smaller city, and you being so sensitive. How's that impacted you? Because you've gone from like a big like LA to
Yeah.
Hawaii, and um how is that? Can you explain to me how that difference was when you moved there, how that felt, or if you noticed anything?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Notice
Yeah,
that amount. That's like
I'm coming. I'm on a plane right
I
now.
don't know. I don't know how you can't notice a difference from this big city where you have everything at your fingertips at any hour of the day or night to a very small remote island that um, you do not have a lot of access to things, and places to eat might be open and they might not be, and you have nature at your fingertips. And it takes a minute to adjust because your nervous system is like up here in
Mm,
those cities, and then all of a sudden everything's brought down. And then some people, like, I live on Kauai, and it is, before we moved here, we had heard stories of like, Mother Kauai is going to test you. Like, you are going to be tested. She will either accept you or she will reject you. There's
oh,
so much magic to be had here.
wow.
So we came in with like an enormous amount of respect. And I have noticed over the years that I actually feel a lot of energy from like the land, wherever I'm traveling, I tend to pick up on different energies there. And so here, my experience has been that yes, she's definitely tested. Um, but if you come in really respecting her, like, we would ask permission. I made sure when we would go on hikes, before we would get in the water, before we would go someplace, like, do we have permission to go on this hike today? Do we have permission to get in the water today? Or at least I would do that for myself. And I know we would together at times too. And then I'd have to listen and trust the answer. There would be days where I'd walk up to the water and I'd step into it and I'd be like, I'd get a weird feeling and I'd go, do I have permission to get in the water today? And I'd hear, no. And I'd go, okay. And I'd get out and I'd just sit on the beach. And then there'd be times where I would feel the ocean calling me, going, Laura, come in. And I'm like, no, not today.
No.
And I'd go on hikes and I'd be like, hey, do we have permission to go on this hike? And sometimes I'd hear no, or we'd get to a certain point on it and I'd be like, I'd hear a voice or something that was like, not any further. And I think multiple things that were happening is it's building up trust. It's like a relationship with anything. We
Mm,
have to know and empower the other person to have a voice, to have a say. So it's going, hey, is it okay if whatever, like whatever comes up in relationship dynamics, it's like checking in and going, how do you feel about that? You're not feeling it today, then we're just going to back off. Like, and I think that's why it's been so healing for me to be here. And it's a vortex of energy. Let's like, you're in a little bit of a hub. Like, I don't have to deal with a lot. It's been very healing. And it's been very challenging.
mm,
And it's been interesting just feeling the shift of like the shadow side of the island, the underbelly of it, the development that's taking place, the how people are wanting to desecrate sacred places. Like, you start to sense that whenever you're in this magical, amazing place, that when you're a tourist, you get to come in, you get to soak up, and then you leave. But what are you leaving behind? What's the energy? What is the energy of exchange that's taking place?
wow.
So I don't know if I like fully answer the question, but I think I keep wanting to loop in repair, and I don't know how to do that at the moment. But like, I feel like that's a really big piece to like everything we've been talking about,
Mhm.
uh, setting boundaries,
Yeah.
and then you set the boundaries, and then you step into like asking permission. Do I have permission to do this? Building that relationship, and then we're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
It's not about perfection.
Right.
And I think that's even the approach that I take with my son is like, there's a lot of fear of like, I'm going to screw him up. He's going to be in therapy one day. Like,
Yeah.
and, and then I stop and I go, wait a minute. What is the only thing that really matters? Like, I will make mistakes. I'm human. I will absolutely make mistakes. It's not about avoiding making the mistakes. It's that when I do make them, am I self-aware enough to stop and go back to him and go, I broke our connection. I got a little upset. Maybe you felt like because I handed you off to your dad that maybe you felt like I abandoned you. I just didn't have the capacity at that time to support you. I'm really sorry. He's one. He understands this though.
Mhm.
Like these children, especially coming in now, like, and they always have, this is all of us, but like they really need us to talk to them and communicate with them and repair with them so
Yes.
that they can come here and be this next shift that's needed in the world.
Yeah.
And I just feel like that's the biggest gift that I can give him is that it's okay if you make mistakes. What's more important is do you take accountability? Are you able to self reflect, take responsibility, and be able to communicate and understand that that affected and impacted someone, even if that was not your intention?
Mhm.
And then ask, how do we repair this?
Yes. I love that so much.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, and so I think that just kind of blends with even being on the island and this shift is like there's so much noise in LA
Yeah.
and it is so amazing. I loved LA. Like while I was there, like I knew that was like home for me. That's where I was meant to be. It filled me up. It gave me so much life. And for me, it changed over the last few years. The energy shifted, something shifted. And I also just realized it's not time for me to be here anymore. So when I
Mhm.
left, it felt complete. And then
Good.
I get to have this new experience where there's also challenges of like, oh, I can't just go shopping because there's really not much shopping on this island. Like finding maternity clothes was like, I couldn't. Like it was kind of mind-boggling. So there were like, you know, you've got some of those shifts, but I think just the subtle energy that like it's really helped me put my own boundaries up as far as who I want to connect with and how I want to connect with them. And dropping into a space of really trusting myself and trusting how things want to unfold. And I tell you, this island has like been nothing but showing me that you will get what you need right when you get it and not a moment before. And I know you want that thing and you want it really bad, but you don't need it at this moment because you actually have what you need.
Mm.
And until you need that next step, and when
Mhm.
you need it, you'll get it.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. It's so true. I love all that repair. I think it doesn't nobody talks about it enough, and, I don't know if you know that, I grew up in a house where people didn't say, "I'm sorry." We didn't s Nobody said, "I'm sorry." My dad he was present, as present as he could be. He traveled a lot, and it was just really, important for me as a mom to just be able to say, "I screwed up. I'm so sorry. I wasn't you know what? We're in this together." I tell my kids all the time, "We're on the same team, like, we're in this together. I'm gonna screw up, you're gonna screw up, and we're gonna love each other through it," and they get it, and they're like, "Yeah, I know." Like, now they're like, "Yeah, I know." But, the "I'm sorry" is, like, also a lot about changing that behavior, right? Like, seeing things differently. "Ooh, you remember when I snapped at you that one day? I'm kind of feeling like that inside, and I don't wanna do that. I think I need to eat first before we have this conversation."
Yeah.
And just really simplifying things to identify, like, what's going on with me so that they know how to check in with their bodies too. And I think that's a lot of, you know, like, I don't know about you, but I was like, when I started my business, it was way back in, God, I think it was like 2000 oh, 6 or 7, I don't know. I don't remember when I started but I was like, "Oh my god, I wanted to do everything. I wanted to do it all." I was, like, exerting myself. I didn't have kids at that time, and I was just like, "I'm still like that. I still can go, like, all in, you know? I'm all in." And then I pull back and I'm like, "Whoo, super tired, need to take care of myself." And I think, like, as moms too, like, now we really have to because there's little people watching us, and, being able to be the best that they can be, especially if they're probably intuitive too, and, they're gonna be even more sensitive than we are, needing to go back to that self-care is so important, right? So, I just love that so much, and um, I just getting present for me is so important and to be able to show them, like, this is what it feels like, and it doesn't always feel good, but we're just gonna stay in this moment right now. And, so, yeah, I love that, and I didn't know anything about that island. I love that concept. I love it. I could do it here in LA. Who cares? Like, everywhere we go, we can.
We go.
Yeah, and the safety of asking, like, a client, is it okay? I sense that your grandfather is coming through. Is this somebody that you want to talk to? Instead of saying, you're at a dinner or a birthday party, your grandpa, I don't truly believe in that, but I am like creating everything lately around safety and how people feel. So they feel so totally comfortable that they're allowed to be themselves and not to be pushed that on them, but ask them if they would like, right? Like
Choice. People like to have choice.
voice. Yes.
You're giving someone because there's empowerment in that. It's like what I'm seeing with kids. Like you make so many of the decisions, but sit there and ask them, do you want this to eat or this to eat? Do you want to wear this colored shirt or this colored shirt? And then there's a sense of empowerment. It's the same. If like, yeah, you're going to a client going, hey, what are you ready for? What are you wanting? What direction would you like to go in? Like I'll do that in sessions where sometimes I'll just stop and be like, we're headed in this direction. Is that what you want? What's the, how do you want to feel at the end of this session? How does
Yes.
this feel for you? Is there anything you need to feel complete? Like, because people want to, I'll ask permission too. Like, there's something coming through. Is that okay? Now, when people reach out for my little 20-minute recordings,
Yeah.
I don't really have much of a filter there. I can sometimes feel into things, but at that point, I just have to trust that they're going to do what they want with it. But like when I'm one on one with person, like I'm feeling that energy in a different way. And I mean, that's so beautiful of like, yes, because maybe they don't want to talk to that person. Maybe they're not ready to. Maybe the answer is not yet.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same of like friends over the years. We've had to work on that too, where someone's like, oh, I'm getting this hit for you. I'm getting this like wait. I'm really trying to trust myself right now. Not that I don't honor and love and want to hear what you have to say, like,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I'm not ready at the moment to hear
Yeah.
it.
I love
And so I think it's just that respectful, and I think that respect, man, in our world, I think we've lost a lot of that respect. We're just telling people what to do and how to do it, and I think everyone's trying to repair. Like the vision that I've been getting lately has been because I'm a mom and I just the first year was like a little cray cray of just recovering, like
Yeah.
dealing with all the things and like being away from family. And so I got a little depleted. I'm working on it. But the
Uh-huh.
vision that I got was like, it's like I'm a cup. And any self care, anything that even my partner tries to pour into that cup right now, there's so many holes in the bottom of it, it can't hold it. Can't
Mm,
hold anything. So it's like all these things that used to fill me up aren't filling me up because I have ruptures with myself. Where have I crossed my own boundaries? Where
mm,
what ruptures have happened within the relationship? What ruptures have happened in the past? That's still so my work now is like, how do I just go and repair some of those so that when those things happen, I can actually start to fill up?
yeah.
Because that's what I want to teach my son is like, it's okay that the holes are there,
Yeah.
but like let's go repair them so that we can like really take our lives to that next level of like the bliss and the experience and thriving, because I know so many people that are working so hard.
Yes.
Why am I not getting there? And I'm like, I think it's because we got all these holes that have to get repaired, and it's
Yeah.
from the conversations that leave you feeling ick that you didn't get to resolve with someone. It's like the boundary that someone crossed that they didn't know because you didn't speak up, that
Mhm.
they probably didn't do on purpose. It's the people that like can't show up for you anymore. They don't have the capacity. They're emotionally just not there. And you sometimes have to cut that cord and change the dynamic or the relationship. Like it's not always these big things. It's oftentimes those little subtle moments of, hey, when you talk to me like that, it kind of hurts my feelings.
Yeah.
Right? And them going, oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Next time.
Yeah. And they
Yeah.
don't know if they don't know, right? I know that, like, you and I have both gone through I can relate to you on so many levels. I mean, I could make this a 2-hour interview, but, um, I can relate to you in the fact that, a lot of times that that invalidation of, like, "You're wrong, you're a little crazy, you're no, no," like and then the shame that comes with it, it's just so, like, it's so it like, I am getting so much better at handling the shame that others in society put on you. There I live in a very highly populated Christian area. And so, and I'm not religious. I don't consider myself religious, but I am highly spiritual, and I believe that I am really connected, and I feel very connected. And but when I think, and I'm going to say the thing that no one wants to say, is like, religion can take a real big toll on somebody in our profession, and emotionally draining, and emotionally, um, you know, bringing up those past life issues where we were possibly shamed, or not validated as a child, or anything, like that. And for me, I've been working through that. And I loved what you said in the beginning, like how we continuously have to work at ourselves for us to be more clear, and for us to identify. And it just feels like, you know, coming out of that, like, okay, I got to feel that. I know what that feels like. Now I never get to make anyone feel that way ever. And I think that, identifying that these teachers in our lives that are, people that hurt us or shamed us, and we get to say yes to myself, and be in full acceptance of it, and not 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 shame anybody else for the way that they're being either, even though we don't agree with how they treated us as an intuitive, or what, or like a weirdo, or whatever we get placed, labels that we get placed on us, and the judgment. But that we get to say again, like, "You're not wrong, I'm not wrong, but you're allowed to have your own opinion. I just don't necessarily need that in my life, and now I get to choose differently. I get to choose to have friends, or colleagues, or students, or clients that I never have to make them feel, I want them to be feeling so inspired and empowered," right? And, like, how do you wanna leave at the end of the session? That was a perfect, like, example, what you said. And it's a journey. It's quite a journey, isn't it? To feel like I don't know if you wanna la comment
Yeah.
on that, but kinda went off on a tangent there, but
No, because it kicked up like a story that I'm like, should I tell this story? Would that be helpful, or would that just be on my own? But it's like it's the let me start with this. I remember because my family is, I mean, I was born and raised Catholic, and there's so many beautiful things about Catholicism and the traditions that I really love.
yes.
And it kind of got to a point for me where I just wasn't clicking with it. Everything was kind of pointing me in a different direction of like, maybe just go explore and ask some other questions. And like, and so I remember in this place of like, I was going to yoga and I was really getting into that. And I was feeling judged, we'll just say pretty judged, or, for going a different path, or family members who didn't maybe fully understand what I was getting into, and maybe like just not understanding it. Um, and so it was coming across, and it's like I didn't want to think that they were bad. I'm like, what they believe is not, it's not bad. It's just not for me. But how do I come to peace with this internally? Because it was creating a lot of internal conflict for me. And I went to this yoga retreat, and one of the teachers said something about like, I'm going to mess it up, but it was along the lines of whatever people feel connected to, whatever inspires someone to want to be a better person, that's their thing. Like we need to honor and support that.
Oh,
And I was like, oh, that's what it is yes, go do your thing, be like whatever you feel connected to. If that inspires you to want to be a better person, and then if that allows you and I to have a deeper connection, that's even more amazing. But if you're going to keep coming at me and judging me, then I don't know how to be in this relationship, because I have to honor myself enough, and I have to honor that, like, like I've been accused of like working for the devil, doing, yeah, like, and that crystals are the devil rocks, and all. And it's like, I get that because I understand the fear. I understand when you don't. And oh, that's so like,
right? I feel that.
I don't give that much power to it. I don't give that much power to a rock or to a card. For me, it's like intentions
Yeah.
of like, and sometimes our intentions don't come across well, right? But you've got priests that you have a wonderful, there's a lot of wonderful, amazing, positive things. And you have priests that don't always have the greatest intention, or it's misguided or whatever. And I think that's where like some of the harm comes in. And that's where it's like, how do we find the repair even with the the religions? Because there has been a lot of like I do I have time to tell a little
Yeah, of
story?
course.
Okay.
Yeah. Got time.
So oh, this was back when like I had called off an 8-year relationship. I had called off my wedding. I was 4 months away from the wedding. Things had ended. My mom was coming up to the apartment to because he had gone back to LA. I was in St. Louis at the time. My mom had come up to my apartment for a weekend to help me kind of start sorting things and selling things. And it was Palm Sunday weekend. And she's still, a practicing Catholic. Um and I'm not, I wasn't at the time, not now, but she came up, she was like, well, I have to go to mass because my dad dropped her off. And I was like, okay. I was like, I'll take you. I was like, but if we go, like, I actually want to take you into St. Louis to the Basilica because I remember that church being really pretty. And she was like, oh, great. So we go. And at this time, I had like really committed to trusting my intuition, all these little nudges that like I would maybe kind of ignore. I was like, no, just you're going to go with it, Laura. Anything that comes up, just commit to that. And so I remember we had sat down and I look over and I see the confessional. And there was a line of people to the confession. And I was like, oh, I haven't gone to confession in like 10 years. I was like, and I just felt it like blinking at me. And I was like, all right. And I leaned over to my mom and I was like, I'm going to go hop in that line. And sure, she gets excited, right? And I was like, okay. So I go and I get in there, and it's like the confessional where you've got like just the little screen. And so I'm kneeling on one side and the priest is on the other. And I start on I kind of forget what you say, but like, it's, I'm sorry I've sinned. It's been like 10 years since my last confession. These are my sins. And I was like, kind of going along the lines of like, I feel like I'm not really doing what God wants me to be doing. And I'm sorry for that. And, I kind of said some other things, and he stopped me and he said, I'm not really worried about those things. We're going to go to the 10 Commandments. So, oh, okay. This is interesting. Haven't had that happen before. So he starts like, have you ever used God's name in vain? And I paused because I wanted to have a memory before I confess. Like, I want to have a memory of like, have I? Like, and he was like, you, in 10 years, you've never used God's name in vain. And I was like, oh, we got some attitude. Okay. I was like, this is interesting. And I was like, yes, I just wanted to think of a memory. Like, yes, I have used God's name in vain. And he starts going down the list, and um, he's like, have you ever put yourself above God? And I was like, well, I really don't think so. I was like, I feel like everything I'm doing is asking, like, is this what would be of service? Because, and something I had to explain to my mom years before was like, just because I left the church doesn't mean that I left God, doesn't mean that I left spirituality, doesn't mean that I left a higher source, that I'm following that. And so I was like, no, I don't. I feel like I'm always kind of asking what's for the highest good of all. I was like, so I really don't think so. And then he gets to, have you ever murdered anyone? Right? Have you ever like? I was like, no. He was like, have you used birth control? And I was like, yes, I have. He's like, do you believe that birth control is a mortal sin? And I said, oh, a mortal sin? Like, that's like the king of all sins. I was like, no, I don't believe birth control is a mortal sin. Um, and he's like, you don't believe it's a mortal sin? And I was like, no, I don't. He was like, oh, well, I can't absolve any of your sins. And I was like, whoa, what? I was like, you can't absolve any of them because okay. And I was like, my body was shaking, my heart was racing. And he was like, you need to go keep praying on that. And I was like, I will. And I was like, just so you know, I don't actually need you to absolve my sins. I can actually go straight to God for that. I was like, but I will keep praying on that. And I was like, so many things were coming up for me in that moment. How many times do people go into that confession and say something that I could have just lied. I could have said, yeah, absolutely, absolve my sins. Let me change my mind right here in that moment, and that he would absolve my sins. I could have like I could have killed someone the day before, gone in and repented and said how horrible, and he would have absolved my sins. Like there's all these things. And I was like, wait a minute, what's going on? And of course I felt terrible because I go back out and like mom was like, you can go to communion. And I was like, I can't because they didn't absolve my sins. And she, of course, the horror on her face, I felt awful. I was like, it's okay. It's okay. We're gonna get it sorted out, mom. But like then we're standing there and like you have the Eucharist and they're like, you have to say, I'm not worthy to receive you, but only say the word and I shall be healed. And like, I'm not worthy to receive. How
Mm.
many times did I say that growing up? It doesn't matter what we say after that.
Mm.
How many times did I repeat, I'm not worthy to receive? How many times do people repeat this? And we wonder why we don't feel worthy of our dreams. We wonder why we don't feel worthy of our intuition, of experiencing the connection we want to experience with others. Like we wonder why we don't feel worthy. And it's because how many times are we repeating that phrase? And I understand the concept of it with religion, but the way that the mind works is that it doesn't know the difference when you say, I am. But after that is what it's going to start to create the stories around. And so I thought it was interesting because I was really fired up after this story. And I've written about it and I just haven't posted it or anything yet. But like, I remember talking to a friend about it and she was like, who is this priest? So we went and we looked him up online. And it turns out, like, less than a year or two prior, he had actually been in a court case of being accused of crossing the line with an underage female who was found not guilty because there was not enough substantial evidence. And I was like, interesting that he called out the one area that like
Mm.
but he got his sins absolved. He went back through his training. He got to be back in this power position over a woman.
Mm.
And I don't know, it just stirred up a lot for me. I know that there's a lot more to that,
Sure,
to
but
all of that. But I think it brought up more of the past me would have felt so much shame in that moment of leaving that confessional. And I was so proud of myself for
yes.
speaking up, for using my voice, for still feeling like I was being respectful, but more importantly, respecting myself when I'd been respected so many times by others.
Mhm.
And it coming back around to that, like, I'm not worthy.
Yeah.
So there's so many beautiful things with religion and like spirituality and whatever people connect with to want to be a better person. But I don't think we get to being a better person through shame or guilt.
Yes. That was so beautiful, Laura. Yeah. It's it's so true. There's no way we can. It limits us, doesn't it? It's the shame and
Yeah,
guilt. It so
absolutely limits us.
yeah.
And if we want to be limited, that's fine. But some of us want to see what our full potential is.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
get stuck in these stories. And I think that's why I love the work that you do and that I do. And it's being able to help unlock people and show people and then see here's what's a little bit in the way of that. It's not all that, it's a piece of it.
Yeah.
Lots of
Exactly.
pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah.
People find some emotional relief
Yeah. Exactly.
and some
And
ground guidance hopefully in the process.
yes, I know. Yeah. It's so wonderful. I mean, I do feel like it's quite a journey to, you got through the yoga, you got through the relationship, you've gotten to, and that just, I mean, don't you feel like even though like what we were talking about before with the choices of the food and empowering, it's like you've empowered yourself by making these huge choices in your life. Like I got goosebumps, like huge choices of this relationship isn't right for me. Maybe it took me 8 years. We had to go through that. I honor you. I honor myself. We'll leave it at that, and then honoring the church, honoring that and saying it's maybe not for me and just knowing that these little things are calling your energy back saying, "Oh, that's never going to go away. It's always a piece of me, but I get to be something that, I'm called to and I get to make that decision and it feels good, right? Like it gets the worthiness in there in our solar plexus and like makes us feel like we have that power to do that, but we are not the power, and that's why, like, I always say a little meditation right before, we do our podcast interviews or anything that I do, because I don't wanna have control. Like, I don't want to have that power. I wanna give it to something else and let it come through me and flow through us. And I think that you just being you is a perfect example of that flowing, divine energy. And, I just I just really thank you for being in my life and, like,
Thank
sharing
you.
yourself with us, the deepest parts of yourself. And, um, I've kind so I've been sort of asking people this, like, when I interview them, but it's kind of, like, fun. Like, do you know what's your sun sign? Do you know your sun sign? Or
Well,
you're a Taur aren't
yes.
you Taurus? Oh, no, no, you're not a Taurus.
No, I okay. Well, there's Western and then there's Vedic, and
Oh, I don't know.
I'm a little different, and I actually relate a little bit more to the Vedic. So, like
Oh,
in Western, I'm an Aries sun, but in Vedic, I'm actually a Pisces.
of course you are. So
So,
you have to if it's somebody listening and they want to know more about Vedic, astrology, how would they look that up? Just Google Vedic astrology or
I mean, you
figure
can, and then my partner does Vedic astrology, and then I have a really good friend who does Vedic astrology, like comprehensive readings as well. So, um, yeah, I don't know. I
out,
can
you know? I
yeah,
don't
can I
know, just
get the information when I send you?
yeah,
I
just
can.
send me the information if you're interested, if you just because I think that a lot of people would be interested in seeing, what is my moon sign in Vedic, or what is my so what's your moon and your rising in traditional astrology or whole sign? Or I don't know if
Capricorn
you
in both. It's Capricorn in both, and then it's a Scorpio rising in Vedic. Well, because I'm right on the cusp, so it's like I think Sag and Scorpio, but it's more Scorpio. So I've got a little bit of a stinger in me.
Yeah, I love it. And yeah, I feel it. I'm a little stinger too. I mean, I'm a traditional astrology, I'm a Pisces sun and a Scorpio moon, and, I'm like and we're doing this, like, on the Scorpio moon, and I'm, like, all feeling like, "Woo," like like, "Let's get it out." Like, I'm not afraid to go deep, that? And
Yeah.
then, that's why I love talking to you, because 'cause I'm like, "Oh, I could totally be myself." Like, you could get right down in the deepness with me, in the waters of the depth of, and then I'm a rising Gemini. So, um, yeah, I don't know. I'll have to look up my Vedic astrology and see what I am. Has
Yeah.
some
Yeah, it's really fascinating. I think one of the things that really helped me with Vedic is understanding that we go through different cycles. And so we can be in these like, so I actually 2 years ago came out of an 18-year cycle Rahu, which was looking back on it, it's like, why wasn't anything happening for me? Why didn't I feel more supported with my spiritual work? Well, because that I wasn't. That's not where my work was. It was about breaking through the illusions. It was about like, having life experiences, and I got to have all of that. And then I jumped into I'm in a now new 16-year cycle, which is I'll be more supported with the spiritual work, but it's all about family and creating that. And it was like as soon as that transition happened, it was like shortly after I got pregnant, and it was like things started to shift. And it was like my business is shifting. I think I want to do more writing, but I still want to keep doing this work. So everything's still kind of in this beginning stage of what's supposed to be the best 16 years of my life. So I'm excited to see what happens because those were very challenging 18 years. And I think that's what I love about it is it because it shows like where is nature supporting you? Because how many times do we struggle and suffer? Why isn't work happening? Why isn't this happening? Why haven't finances happening? It's like, well, where is nature supporting you? And can you get in the flow of that? And it comes back to when the food, like what's right in front of you, what's showing up right in front of you. My son wants the food across, but he's got food in front of him. It's the exact same food.
uh,
What's in front of you where you're actually being supported and where it wants to nourish you, but you're too focused over there. So
yeah.
if for me, it's just like a nice way to kind of see
Mm.
what that is. Like I just did an hour long for my birthday with my friend and Abigail. She's amazing and comprehensive. And she was just like, writing, that's where you're being supported right now. And I was like, I was feeling it. That's where I have to shift gears.
That's awesome.
Like, and not
Oh,
poetry. She's like, long, you got to go big. And I was like, she's like, think a book. And I was like, I'm working on it.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So it feels good to kind of have that confirmation and feel like I'm in integrity with what I'm doing and actually where nature wants to support me too. So I
Yeah.
will put both of their information to in case people are interested in that as well.
Yeah, that's cool. Thank you. And so what is your I don't I hate saying the word job, but what is your what are you doing right now? What are you up to like as far as like services and what are your offerings right now, I guess?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am going to be completely honest. My top priority is staying at home with Samuel. My next offering that has been working really beautifully for me is this 20-minute reading that I do. That's a low cost point. I get to do it. I'll turn it around within 24, typically within 48 hours. Someone just sends me a question and I just dive in and record it. And then I just feel like that's such a quick and easy thing for people when they need a little bit of like, I need a little micro support that doesn't cost a lot at the moment. Like, how can I support people and support myself in that?
Yeah.
And then I'm still doing private one-on-one sessions. So this can look like Reiki. It can look like, pulling cards, life coaching. Just like it's a combination. It's whatever someone needs, and sometimes it's a combination of all three. So doing the one-on-one sessions, I'm not doing a ton of those at the moment. And then I have created a Substack page and I'm going to have kind of a low cost if someone wants to support with that. I'll have some free articles and then I'll have some of the stuff I'm working on, maybe some short stories and stuff that would be for the paid subscribers. So I'm working on that next as well.
Okay.
That's kind of where I'm at the moment.
Yay. Okay, I love that so much. And are you working out of a website or Instagram, or what's your preferred content?
I'm in the process of kind of updating the website, but that's laurahaug.com. And then my Instagram, I'm not posting as much on there anymore. And then the Substack, I'm adding more to it at the moment. So probably I think the hub will be my website that I'll be able to filter everything through that. I'm working on like maybe even doing a subscription for the 20-minute recordings where if you want to sign up, you could subscribe to get one a month. It could be a guided meditation. It could be answering a question. And then if you subscribe to that, then you would get a discount off of private sessions if you wanted to do that. So I'm kind of working on a few things to
Yeah.
support myself. Because,
Okay.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
support in a
Oh,
way that feels good for everyone's schedule.
yeah, what a blessing too, right? Like, God, you get to do this and be a mom and a wife, and it's like you get to do these things, and I'm just so happy to know you and watch your journey, and um,
Kidding,
yeah,
I'm so thrilled to know you. You've been someone I've watched over the years be in such integrity with yourself and
oh,
with your work, and that you were willing to step away and to trust your own intuition. And you're so insightful and so gifted. And I just have adored all the sessions that I've done with you. And I know I want to do more, and it's going to happen. So
good. I know. Thank you. You're so sweet, Laura. Thank you for coming on here and making the time to be with me today, and I hope you come back. So,
for having me. You're amazing.
you too. Okay, I'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.